Okay, crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin. You've heard all of these, seen them on TV, and most certainly in your social media timelines. You probably even know a self-described expert or two that's made some pocket change on cryptocurrency. So this week, the price of Bitcoin hit a new high of more than $55,000 per coin. But what I find really interesting about all of this is who is investing in crypto. With Black and Hispanic and Latino Americans much more likely to invest in cryptocurrency than white Americans. I want to talk about this. So joining me to help break it down, how crypto may or may not fit in your financial goals, is founder and CEO of My Money, My Future, Ramona Ortega. Ramona, so happy to have you here. Look, I have so many questions, so I want to dive right into this. I hear so much about Bitcoin on my social media feed. You know, my friends who don't even work in finance, who all of a sudden become like, you know, day trader knowledge, like, oh, you got to get in Bitcoin. People are taking money out of their 401k. Is this really a safe thing to be investing your money in?
Well, the short answer to that is crypto has become cool, right? And part of that is that it's just been embedded in so many apps, right? It's accessible. And the three things that I think are really important to understand about crypto is that it's transparent in a lot of ways, it's accessible, and it's anti-establishment, which is why it's become so mainstreamed especially in communities of color. Look, so for so many people who've been overlooked and underserved by traditional financial institutions and have very little trust in banks, crypto is a very attractive asset class, not to mention that it gives people the opportunity for higher than market returns. And for those of us who are looking at massive racial wealth gap, the S&P 500 returns about 13% a year. Crypto over the last 5 years has returned 14,000%. So this looks like a real opportunity to close the racial wealth gap in a smaller amount of time. And I think that's really part of the attraction. But is it the smartest thing to do? It should absolutely be a part of your portfolio, right? But the problem is that, like anything, you shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket, right? This is investing 101, which means we need diversification of your portfolio. You should be invested in equities like stocks. You should be invested in real estate. You should be invested in maybe even your business. There's other forms of alternative assets. And so what happens is that because we weren't really invested in those markets in the first place, right? We are, as people of color, underinvested in equities, in real estate. And so this gives us this kind of opportunity to kind of make up for that being redlined essentially out of all these other opportunities. But you have to really understand the risk. It's very volatile still. We still have not mainstreamed it to the extent that I think its potential, we will eventually mainstream it, but we still have a lot of time to get there. So it's extremely volatile still. And, you know, it should essentially be maybe anywhere from 10% to 15% of your portfolio if you also have other types of assets.
Right.
So that's the key here.
Well, look, I mean, I don't want to be a commercial for Bitcoin here because the scary thing that I hear from some of my friends is they're pulling money out of their 401k. They don't really know. When you start to dig into these questions, people don't really understand it completely. So I'd imagine you don't want people investing money that they can't afford to lose in this platform. And you make a good point about the wealth gap. When we've been so crucially locked out of these spaces, we look for a path to catch up with our counterparts. So it's understandable why people get into it. I don't really understand crypto at all. You know, like people talk about it. When I even ask them, I don't think other people really understand crypto at all. Like, what are some places where it's not a commercial, but people can at least understand it more?
Look, it essentially, crypto is a digital asset that's built on top of a blockchain, right? And I actually think blockchain is the more interesting aspect of crypto. So Bitcoin was built on top of a blockchain. Ethereum is a blockchain. So a lot of people are talking about NFTs, which is essentially digital art, right? It's copyright. You're owning a portion of that copyright. And it is built on top of a Rails system called blockchain or Ethereum. NFTs are primarily built on top of Ethereum. And so for a lot of people, you know, that's an exciting opportunity to buy these alternative assets. And it really operates with that kind of transparency. Again, it's anti-establishment because it's not regulated by any one institution, right?
Well, it's not regulated. it's not regulated, but something that, sorry to interrupt you, we're running out of time, but it's also something that surprised me about this. This is something that's really appealing to young people, but it's terrible for the environment. So these two interests, and young people care about the environment. So these two interests seem to be competing. I don't think enough people know it's horrible for the environment.
That's right, because in essence, you're paying what we call a gas fee, which is a mining and transaction fee to actually not only get the Bitcoin, but then if you are making a transaction, for example, for an NFT, you have to pay fees to put that up onto the blockchain. And it's essentially like crude oil, right? So you got to pay to mine it, and then you got to clean it, and then you got to transport it. And then at the end of the day, someone is paying that fee at their gas pump, and that fluctuates. And it's the same type of thing. And it has a carbon footprint. And so absolutely, the two are in contradiction to one another if you are truly concerned about a footprint in the environment.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep our eye on this. And you were great, Ramona. You have to come back because I have 8,000 more questions with only a 2-hour show. So thanks so much for breaking it down, and I look forward to having you back really soon.